Welcome to Forgotten Realms, where ancient whispers echo through time, and lost memories drift between dream and myth. Here, you will not simply fall asleep. You will wander sacred ruins buried by silence, and unravel stories that history chose to forget. Close your eyes, take a breath, and let the past dream through you. This is Forgotten Realms. Sleep well.
In the twilight realm of Valthara, where ancient mists weave between forgotten towers and moonlight pools in silver lakes, there once stood a mirror crafted from starfall glass and shadow-touched silver. Queen Lirelei of the Fading Court gazed into its depths one autumn evening, seeking visions of her lost kingdom's future. But the mirror showed her something far more alluring. A world within its surface where time moved like honey, where sorrow dissolved into whispered lullabies, and where she could reign eternal in perfect, dreamless peace. As the last autumn leaves fell outside her chamber window, the queen stepped through the looking glass into a realm of echoes, leaving behind only the gentle sound of her crown settling softly upon empty stone. Now, centuries later, travelers speak in hushed tones of the mirror of echoes, where her reflection still dances in the silver depths, beckoning wanderers to join her in the serene slumber of the glass realm, where all earthly troubles fade like morning mist. The evening mist rises from the valley floor like the breath of sleeping giants, carrying with it the scent of wild jasmine and ancient stone. You are walking along a path that few have traveled in recent memory, a winding trail of moss-covered cobblestones that leads through groves of silver birch trees, whose leaves shimmer like coins in the fading light. Your name is Aldrich, and you are a scholar of forgotten places, a keeper of lost stories. Your leather satchel, worn smooth by countless journeys, holds notebooks filled with sketches of crumbling towers and transcriptions of half-remembered songs. Tonight, something has called you to this remote valley, though you cannot quite name what it is, only that the pull is as gentle and persistent as the tide. The path curves ahead, disappearing into a grove where the trees grow taller and their shadows deeper. Each step you take seems to slow time itself, as if the very air here moves to a different rhythm, one measured not in minutes but in heartbeats, not in hours but in dreams. The sound of your footsteps is muffled by the thick carpet of silver, moss that covers everything, creating a hushed quality that makes even your breathing seem loud in the gathering twilight dot as you round the bend. The trees part like curtains drawing back, and before you rises something that takes your breath away entirely. The ruins of Queen Lirelei's palace stretch across a natural clearing, their broken spires reaching toward the star-filled sky like fingers grasping at memories of glory long past. Moonvine has claimed the walls, its luminescent flowers casting a soft, ethereal glow that makes the entire structure seem to pulse with gentle life. The palace walls, though crumbling in places, still retain their majestic bearing. They are built from a pale stone that seems to absorb and reflect moonlight in equal measure, creating the illusion that the building itself is carved from solidified starlight. Arched windows, their glass long since shattered, gape like sleepy eyes, and through them you can see glimpses of chambers where shadows dance to music only they can hear. You approach the main entrance, a grand archway crowned with carved roses, whose stone petals have been softened by centuries of rain and wind until they seem almost real. The massive doors that once sealed this portal have long since fallen, their oak planks now serving as beds for the moss and small flowers that bloom in the perpetual twilight of this enchanted place. The threshold beckons you forward, and you cannot resist its silent invitation as you step across the entrance. The change in atmosphere is immediate and profound. The air inside the palace feels different, thicker somehow, as if it holds the weight of countless memories suspended in its embrace. The foyer stretches before you, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into darkness above. Supported by columns wrapped in trailing moonvine, that glows with the soft light of captured stars. Your footsteps echo strangely here, each sound seeming to linger longer than it should, bouncing off walls that remember when they rang with laughter and music and the rustle of silk gowns. The floor beneath your feet is made of marble that once gleamed like mirrors, now dulled to a soft matte finish that feels warm despite the cool evening air. Patterns are still visible in the stone swirling designs that seem to move when you're not looking directly at them, as if the marble itself is dreaming. To your left, a grand staircase winds upward, its banister carved from what appears to be a single piece of driftwood, smooth and pale as bone. Moonvine has wrapped itself around the railings, turning the staircase into a living sculpture that pulses gently with bioluminescent light. Each step is carpeted with the same silver moss that covers the forest floor outside, muffling sound and creating the sensation that you are walking on clouds. But it is not the staircase that draws your attention, it is the doorway to your right, through which spills a light unlike any other in the palace. This glow is warmer, more golden, and it seems to call to something deep within your scholar's heart. You find yourself moving toward it without conscious decision, drawn by an invisible thread that tugs gently but persistently at your soul. Doorway leads into what was once the palace's great hall, though now it resembles something from a dream more than any earthly architecture. The ceiling soars overhead, its painted frescoes still visible despite the century scenes of Queen Lirelei in her legendary garden, tending to flowers that bloomed in colors that have no names. Moonbeams stream through gaps in the roof where stones have fallen, creating pillars of silver light that illuminate floating motes of pollen and fairy dust. Tables and chairs, carved from living wood that continues to grow even now, are arranged throughout the hall as if waiting for guests who will never come. The wood has taken on fantastic shapes over the years, chair backs that resemble wings, table legs that spiral like ancient trees, armrests that curve like sleeping cats. Moss cushions have formed naturally on the seats, soft as velvet and glowing, with their own inner light. At the far end of the hall, raised on a dais of living stone, stands the throne room's entrance. Unlike the other doorways in the palace, this one is sealed not by doors, but by a curtain of moonvine so thick and luminous that it appears almost solid. The vines pulse with a slow, rhythmic light that matches the beating of your heart, and you realize that this barrier is not meant to keep intruders out, but to keep something precious in. As you cross the great hall, your footsteps seem to awaken something in the very stones. Faint music begins to play, not heard with your ears, but felt in your bones. It is the echo of court musicians who once filled these halls with melody, their songs now reduced to whispers that speak of love and loss, of triumph and sacrifice, of a queen who chose her people's dreams over her own desires for power. Air grows warmer as you approach the moonvine curtain, and you begin to understand that you have not stumbled upon these ruins by accident. Something or someone has guided your steps here, drawn you across leagues of wilderness to this forgotten place where magic still sleeps in the stones, and dreams still bloom in the gardens. Your scholar's mind tries to rationalize the experience, but your heart knows better. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Before the moonvine barrier, you pause and place your hand gently against the glowing curtain. The vines are warm to the touch, and they seem to recognize you, parting slightly to reveal glimpses of the chamber beyond. What you see takes your breath away, a throne room that defies every law of nature and architecture you know. The throne itself sits empty at the room's heart, carved from a single massive crystal that captures and refracts the moonlight into thousands of tiny rainbows. But it is not the throne that amazes you, it is what surrounds it. The entire chamber has become a garden, with flowering vines climbing the walls, trees growing from cracks in the floor, and a carpet of luminous moss that extends as far as you can see. This is where Queen Lirelei made her choice, you realize. This is where she decided to transform her palace from a seat of earthly power into something far more beautiful, a sanctuary where dreams could take root and grow into reality. The throne room has become a living testament to her decision, a place where the boundary between the possible and the impossible has dissolved entirely. The moonvine curtain pulses brighter, as if responding to your understanding, and you feel the first stirrings of the same choice that faced the queen. So, long ago, you could turn back now, return to the world of solid facts and rational explanations. Or you could step forward, through the barrier of light, into a realm where anything is possible, and dreams have the power to reshape reality itself. Your hand moves almost without your conscious direction, pushing aside the glowing vines, and you feel yourself beginning to step across the threshold. The music in the stones grows stronger, welcoming you into a space where time moves differently, where the past and present exist side by side, where the dreams of a long-dead queen still bloom like flowers in an eternal spring. Behind you, the great hall settles back into silence, but ahead lies something beyond your wildest imagination. A throne room where nature and magic have combined to create a garden of dreams, tended by the ghost of a queen who understood that true power lies not in ruling others, but in nurturing the impossible and making it real. And as your footsteps echo through corridors where only silence has walked for centuries, the very stones seem to whisper secrets of the queen who chose dreams over dominion, leading you ever deeper into the palace's heart where moonlight pools like liquid silver on forgotten floors. Chapter 2. The Queen's Chamber ***. You breathe slowly, deeply, as you follow the scholar deeper into the palace's heart. The air grows warmer here, touched with the faintest scent of roses and old parchment. Your footsteps echo softly against marble floors that gleam like moonlight on water. The corridor widens before you, and there is the entrance to Queen Lyraleigh's private chambers. The double doors stand slightly ajar, carved from wood so dark it seems to absorb light itself. Intricate silver inlays spiral across the surface like frozen music, and as you draw nearer, you could almost hear them humming with ancient magic. The scholar's hand trembles slightly as he pushes the doors open. They move without sound, as if floating on invisible hinges, and beyond lies a room that takes your breath away with its impossible beauty. Time has stopped here. Completely, utterly stopped. Shafts of golden light pour through tall windows, though outside it should be deepest night. The light falls in patterns across a chamber that seems larger than the palace itself could contain. Tapestries hang from walls that stretch up into misty shadows, their threads shimmering with colors that have no names. Blues deeper than ocean depths, greens more vibrant than spring's first leaves, golds that warm your very soul. You move forward, slowly, so slowly your feet sinking into carpet soft as cloud down. The scholar walks beside you, his eyes wide with wonder, and together you enter this sanctuary of dreams. Everything here is perfectly preserved, as if Queen Lyraleigh had simply stepped away for a moment and might return at any time. A silk gown lies draped across a chair carved from white wood, its fabric still holding the graceful folds where it was placed centuries ago. Jewelry sparkles on a marble vanity table, pearls that glow with inner light, diamonds that catch the golden rays and scatter them like fallen stars. But as you watch, as you breathe slowly and observe, something extraordinary happens. The pearl necklace shifts slightly, its clasp turning toward the light. A silver brush moves an inch across the vanity's surface, as if an invisible hand had lifted it. The silk gown seems to settle deeper into the chair, fabric whispering against wood in the softest of sighs. Do you see it? The scholar whispers, his voice barely disturbing the enchanted air. The magic here, it remembers her. You nod slowly, feeling the truth of his words settling into your bones like warm honey. This chamber doesn't just preserve Queen Lyraleigh's belongings, it preserves her presence, her essence, the very rhythm of her daily life played out in endless, gentle repetition. A music box sits on the windowsill, its mother-of-pearl surface catching and reflecting the mysterious light. As you watch, its lid lifts slowly, and a tiny golden figure begins to turn. The melody that emerges is impossibly sweet, a lullaby that seems to come not from the box itself, but from the very walls, from the air, from the ancient stones that remember love. The scholar moves toward a writing desk positioned near the window, where parchment and quills wait as if their owner might return to finish an interrupted letter. But it's what lies beside them that draws his attention. Your attention, a leather-bound book that seems to pulse with gentle light. Her diary, he breathes, reaching for it with hands that shake like autumn leaves. The book falls open at his touch, pages fluttering in a breeze that touches nothing else in the room. The writing within is elegant, flowing, each letter formed with care and grace. But as the scholar begins to read, his expression changes, wonder giving way to something deeper, something touched with sorrow. You lean closer, and though you cannot read the ancient script, somehow you understand. The words seem to whisper themselves into your mind, carried on that same invisible breeze that turns the pages. The mirror calls to me again tonight. Its surface shows me glimpses of worlds beyond this palace, beyond these walls that have become both sanctuary and prison. I see forests where sunlight dances through emerald leaves, meadows where wildflowers sway in winds that carry the scent of freedom. The scholar's voice joins the whispered words, reading softly as pages continue to turn of their own accord. His tone is gentle, soothing, like water flowing over smooth stones. I have ruled wisely, loved, deeply protected my people with all my heart. But oh, how I long to walk those distant paths I see reflected in the mirror's depths. To feel earth beneath my feet instead of marble, to sleep under stars instead of painted ceilings. You close your eyes and let the words wash over you like a warm tide. In your mind, you can see her Queen Lirelei standing before that magnificent mirror, her reflection shimmering as visions of other worlds dance in its surface. Her beauty is haunting, otherworldly, but her eyes hold a sadness that tugs at your heart. The music box continues its gentle melody, and now other sounds join it, the whisper of silk against stone, the soft clink of jewelry settling into new positions, the creak of ancient wood adjusting to invisible weight. The chamber is alive with memory, every object playing its part in an eternal dance of remembrance. I have spoken to the court mages about the mirror's magic. They tell me it shows not other worlds, but other possibilities, paths my life might have taken had I chosen differently. When I was young, before the crown claimed me, I dreamed of simple things, of walking mountain paths with flowers in my hair, of dancing by firelight with no one watching but the stars. The scholar pauses, his finger tracing the elegant script. Around you, the chamber seems to hold its breath, waiting. The golden light grows softer, warmer, wrapping around you like a beloved's embrace. You settle into a chair beside the window, its cushions welcoming you as if they had been waiting centuries for just this moment. The view beyond the glass shows not the palace gardens, but something else entirely, a vista that shifts and shimmers like the surface of a dream. Sometimes you see rolling hills covered in lavender, sometimes a cottage by a stream where willows trail their fingers in crystal water, sometimes a path winding through an ancient forest where every tree seems to whisper secrets of peace and rest. The mirror has begun to speak, not in words, but in feelings and longings that resonate through my very soul. It promises escape, promises freedom, but at what cost? I am needed here. My people depend on me. And yet, the pages flutter faster. Now years passing in moments. The scholar's voice grows softer still, almost hypnotic in its gentle rhythm. I have made my choice. Tonight, when the moon reaches its zenith, I will step through the mirror's surface. I will find those paths. I have glimpsed those meadows where wildflowers dance, those streams that sing of freedom. If I cannot return, if the magic claims me entirely, then let these chambers remember what I was. Let them hold the echo of my love for this place, this people, this life. I leave behind, the writing changes then. becoming hurried urgent as if time itself were running short. The mirror's surface ripples like water. I can see through it now, see the forest path that calls to me. My heart pounds with joy and terror in equal measure. Whatever comes next, whatever price the magic demands, I go willingly into dreams made manifest. And there the diary ends, the remaining pages blank as fresh snow. The scholar closes the leather-bound book with trembling fingers, and you feel the weight of centuries-old longing settling around you, both like silk. The chamber seems to sigh a sound like wind through summer, grass like waves upon a distant shore. The music box continues its lullaby, the melody weaving through the air and through your thoughts, carrying with it the echo of a queen's last night in this palace of wonders. You can almost see her standing before the mirror, her reflection wavering as she steps forward into whatever dreams awaited beyond the glass. But was it escape she found? Or did the mirror claim her, binding her spirit to these chambers where magic preserves everything, everyone it touches? Perhaps it doesn't matter. Perhaps the beauty lies not in answers, but in the eternal mystery, in the gentle magic that keeps her memory alive in every shifting shadow, every relocated trinket, every note of that impossible lullaby. You lean back in your chair, feeling sleep beginning to claim you as surely as the mirror claimed its queen. Your eyelids grow heavy, so heavy, and the chamber's golden light seems to pulse in rhythm with your slowing heartbeat. The scholar sets the diary aside with reverent care, and as he does, you notice something wonderful. On the writing desk, a fresh piece of parchment has appeared. A quill hovers above it, writing words in that same elegant script, but these words are different, newer. Welcome, kind visitors, to my sanctuary of dreams. Rest now in the peace I have found. Let my lullaby carry you to gentle sleep, and know that some prisons become paradises when viewed with eyes of love. The quill settles softly onto the desk, its work complete. Around you, the chamber continues its eternal dance of memory and magic. Objects shift when you're not quite looking, shadows play games of hide and seek in corners touched by golden light, and always, that music box plays its lullaby. That seems to emanate from the very walls themselves. You close your eyes completely now, letting the enchantment of Queen Liralei's chambers wrap around you like the softest blanket. The scholar's breathing has grown deep and even beside you, and you know he too has surrendered to the palace's gentle magic. Chapter 3. The Mirror's Discovery ****. You breathe slowly, deeply as the music box's lullaby continues to weave through Queen Liralei's chamber like golden thread through silk. The scholar rises from beside the writing desk, the diary's secret still echoing in the enchanted air around you both. His eyes are drawn to something you hadn't noticed before, a subtle irregularity in the tapestried wall where shadows gather just a little too deeply. The golden light that fills the chamber seems to avoid that particular corner, as if even the magical illumination respects the mystery hidden there. You watch, breathing gently, as the scholar approaches the wall with steps that barely whisper against the cloud-soft carpets. "There," he murmurs, his voice soft as falling leaves. "Do you see it? The way the tapestry hangs just slightly different from the others?" You follow his gaze, and yes, you can see it now. Where the other tapestries hang flat against the ancient stones, this one curves gently outward, as if concealing a space behind. The fabric depicts a scene of impossible beauty, a garden where silver trees bear fruits of pearl and starlight, where crystalline streams flow upward into skies painted with aurora. But as you watch, as you let your eyes rest softly upon it, the woven figures seem to move. A silver deer steps delicately between painted flowers. A cascade of pearls falls upward like reverse rain. And at the center of it all, a figure that might be Queen Liralee herself reaches towards something just beyond the tapestry's edge, something hidden, something that calls. The scholar's hand hovers before the fabric, trembling like a leaf in an unfelt breeze. "The mirror," he whispers. "It must be behind here." hidden away, protected, waiting. You rise slowly from your chair by the window, drawn by the same mysterious pull that guides the scholar's movements. The chamber's magic seems to thicken around. You both, like honey in moonlight, sweet and golden and heavy with possibility. Each step toward the tapestry feels like walking through a gentle dream, where time moves differently and every breath carries whispers of ancient secrets. The scholar's fingers find the tapestry's edge, and as he lifts it, as he draws it slowly aside, cool air flows from the hidden space beyond. Not cold, never cold in this place of gentle enchantments, but cool like morning mist over a mountain lake, carrying sense of starfall and distant magic. Behind the tapestry lies an alcove carved directly into the palace's living stone. The walls curve inward like cupped hands, and within that sacred space there it stands. The mirror of echoes that your breath catches in your throat as you behold it for the first time. It rises from floor to ceiling, a masterpiece of impossible craft that makes your heart flutter like a bird taking wing. The frame is wrought from metal that shifts between silver and gold, depending on how the light touches it, metal that seems to flow like liquid, while remaining perfectly solid beneath your gaze. But it's the glass itself that steals your breath, a way that makes your very soul pause in wonder. This is no ordinary mirror. The surface is made of starfall glass material that exists only in Legends glass, formed when dying stars surrender their light to the darkness between worlds. It shimmers with its own inner radiance, neither silver nor gold, but something altogether more precious, more alive. And it shows no reflections. Where your image should appear, where the scholar's form should be captured, instead there are visions. Glimpses of other realms, other realities, other possibilities that dance and shift like thoughts made visible. You see forests of blue-leaf trees where time flows backward, oceans that hang in the sky above inverted mountains, cities built of crystallized music where the buildings themselves sing lullabies to sleeping stars. Incredible, the scholar breathes, and his voice seems to come from very far away. All the legends, all the stories, none of them captured this. You step closer, so slowly, so carefully, as if approaching a sleeping dragon that might wake at any sudden movement. The starfall glass pulses gently with that inner light, and as you draw nearer, the visions within begin to shift, to focus, to respond to your presence. The scholar reaches toward the mirror's surface, his hand moving as if pulled by invisible threads. "I can feel it," he whispers. "The magic, it's alive. It's watching us, knowing us, judging whether we're worthy to see what it holds." And then then the mirror's depths begin to clear like mist lifting from a still pond. The swirling visions settle into something more stable, more focused, more achingly beautiful than anything you've ever witnessed. You see a realm of endless twilight, where the sky holds neither sun nor moon, but something altogether more wonderful. Aurora of silver and pearl that dances eternally across heavens touched with lavender and gold. Below this miracle of light, islands float in gentle emptiness, not floating in water or air, but in something softer, something that cradles them like a loving hand. These islands are made of silver light itself, their surfaces rippling like liquid metal while remaining solid enough to support what grows upon them. Gardens of impossible flowers bloom there, blossoms that chime like bells when invisible breezes touch their petals, trees whose leaves are cut from starlight and whose branches bear fruits of crystallized dreams. And there, on the largest of these floating gardens, there she is, Queen Lirelei, but not as she appears in her portraits, not as a ruler bound by crown and duty. Here she moves with the fluid grace of someone who has found perfect freedom. Her gown flows around her like liquid moonlight, changing color with each step, now silver, now pearl, now the deep blue of midnight touched with stars. Her hair streams loose and wild, adorned with flowers that bloom and fade and bloom again in endless cycles of beauty. She is dancing, not the formal court dances you might expect, but something wild and joyous and utterly free. Her movements tell stories, paint pictures in the air, create melodies that you can almost hear through the mirror's surface. She spins and leaps and flows across the silver island like water finding its perfect course. And her face, oh, her face holds such joy, such peace, such complete and total liberation from every burden she once carried. She found it, the scholar whispers, his voice thick with emotion. She found her escape, her freedom, her dreams made real. But as you watch this beautiful scene, as you let yourself become lost in the wonder of it, you begin to notice something else. Queen Lirale is alone, completely, utterly alone. No companions share her silver islands. No friends dance beside her in that realm of endless twilight. No beloved waits to catch her hand as she spins through her eternal celebration. And sometimes when she pauses in her dancing, when she stands still as starlight at the edge of her floating garden, she looks toward where you watch from. Beyond the mirror's surface, her eyes find yours across impossible distances, and in them you see something that makes your heart flutter with gentle unease. That longing, that not the desperate longing that filled her diary, not the aching need for escape, that drove her to step through the mirror's surface all those centuries ago. This is different, softer, like the longing of someone who has everything they ever wanted, but realizes that joy shared is joy doubled, that even paradise can feel empty without someone to marvel at its wonders beside you. She raises her hand. This queen who found her freedom in a realm of floating silver, and her gesture is both invitation and warning. Come, her smile seems to say, come and dance with me in this place where time has no meaning and beauty never fades. But also be careful, be very careful. For some doors, once stepped through, can never be walked back through again. The scholar's hand draws closer to the mirror's surface, pulled by that same gentle magnetism that makes flowers turn toward sunlight. I can almost touch her, he murmurs. The glass, it's so thin here, so fragile, like the barrier between dream and waking. You want to warn him, want to call out, but the words stick in your throat like honey. This is the mirror's magic working, you realize. The same enchantment. That call to Queen Lirale now whispers to the scholar, to you, promising escape from whatever burdens you carry, whatever sorrows weigh upon your heart. In the mirror's depths, the queen continues her eternal dance, but her eyes never leave yours. She moves closer to her side of the glass, and you can see your reflection now, not in the mirror itself, but in her eyes. And in that reflection, you look different, lighter, free of whatever worries normally crease your brow, whatever tensions normally tighten your shoulders. The starfall glass begins to warm beneath the scholar's approaching hand. Not hot, never hot in this place of gentle magics, but warm like summer sunshine on your face, like a loved one's touch against your cheek. The surface ripples slightly, as if responding to his nearness, and for just a moment, just the briefest moment, it seems solid as water rather than solid as glass. I could step through, the scholar breathes, wonder and longing warring in his voice. Just like she did, just like the legends say. I could leave behind all the dusty research, all the lonely nights in empty libraries, all the questions that have no answers. I could dance with her among those silver islands, share her eternal twilight, find the peace that's always escaped me. Chapter 4. Visions in Glass. *. You breathe slowly, deeply as the scholar's fingertips hover just above the mirror's warm surface. The starfall glass pulses gently beneath his trembling hand, and in its depths, Queen Lirale's realm of silver islands seems to shimmer closer, as if the very distance between worlds grows thin as gossamer thread. The golden light of her chamber grows softer, now more distant, as if you're sinking slowly beneath the surface of a warm, luminous pool. Your eyelids feel heavy, so heavy, but you cannot look away from the mirror's depths, where wonders beyond imagination dance and flow like liquid starlight. And then something extraordinary happens. The mirror's surface begins to ripple outward from where the scholar's breath touches the glass, and the visions within start to change, to deepen, to draw you both into layers of memory, and dream that exists beyond the physical realm you've been watching. You see the floating gardens more clearly now, as if you've stepped somehow into the mirror itself without moving at all. The silver islands drift closer, close enough to smell the impossible flowers that bloom there, close enough to hear the crystal streams that sing their ancient lullabies as they flow upward into star-touched skies. But these gardens are not empty anymore. They are alive with movement, with figures made of light and memory, with echoes that dance through this glass world like thoughts given form. The weaving spirits. They emerge from behind crystalline trees and from within flowers large enough to hold a dreaming child. These beings are not quite solid, not quite transparent, but something beautifully between. They move like silk scarves caught in gentle breezes, their forms shifting and flowing as they dance through Queen Liralay's eternal realm. What are they? The scholar whispers, his voice soft as falling snow. You watch, breathing slowly as one of the spirits drifts closer to the mirror's surface. Its features are delicate as watercolor paintings, sometimes clear, sometimes blurred, as if memory itself is trying to take shape before your eyes. And in its movements, in the way it tilts its ethereal head and extends graceful arms, you recognize something achingly familiar. It moves like Queen Liralay. More spirits emerge now, dozens of them, each one a different aspect of the Queen's memories. Her dreams, her deepest longings given form in this realm where thought becomes reality. They dance around her living form, these echoes of herself, and as they move, the very air begins to shimmer with visions. The scholar leans closer to the glass, drawn by invisible threads of wonder, and as his breath fogs the surface, the visions grow clearer, more real, more hypnotically beautiful than anything you've ever witnessed. You see Queen Liralay as she was in life, but not as the portraits painted her. These are private moments, secret dreams, memories that were hers alone until the mirror captured them and made them eternal. Here she is, as a child, running barefoot through meadows where wildflowers grow taller than her head. Her laugh echoes across years and realms as she chases butterflies made of pure sunlight, her small hands reaching for wings that scatter into golden dust, only to reform again just beyond her grasp. The weaving spirits dance around this memory, their movements tender and protective, preserving every detail of joy in crystalline perfection. The vision shifts, flows like watercolors bleeding into new shapes. Now you see her as a young woman. Before the crown claimed her completely, she sits by a window in some distant tower, her dark hair loose around her shoulders as she gazes out at landscapes that exist only in dreams. Her hands move across parchment, sketching, always sketching. Maps of places that have no names, paths that lead to horizons touched with impossible colors. I want to walk those roads, she whispers to her reflection in the window glass, and the weaving spirits repeat her words like a gentle echo, their voices blending into harmonies that make your heart flutter with sympathetic longing. I want to sleep under skies I've never seen, wake to sunrises that paint the world in colors that have no names. The scholar's breathing grows deeper, more rhythmic as he becomes lost in these visions that dance before you both like the most beautiful of dreams. You feel yourself sinking deeper, too deeper, into the mirror's hypnotic embrace, deeper into layers of memory and possibility that exist beyond ordinary time. Another vision blooms in the starfall glass. Queen Liralay stands before her court, magnificent, in robes of midnight blue sewn with silver stars. She speaks words of wisdom, renders judgments with compassion, guides her people with the gentle strength that made her beloved throughout the realm. But the weaving spirits show you what the courtiers could not see: the way her eyes drift toward the windows, the way her fingers trace patterns in the air when she thinks no one is watching. Patterns that match the maps she drew in her private chambers, the paths she longed to walk. Duty, one of the spirits whispers, its voice like wind through silver leaves. Honor, responsibility, love. The words float through the mirror's depths, and you understand that these were not her chains, but her gifts, freely given, joyfully offered. But still, In their way, a kind of beautiful prison, the visions shift. Again, and now you see her discovering the mirror for the first time. How young she looks, how full of wonder as she traces its impossible frame with reverent fingers. The glass shows her glimpses then, just as it does now, fleeting images of other worlds, other possibilities, other lives she might have lived. "Show me," she breathes to her reflection, and the mirror responds, revealing visions that make her eyes bright with tears of longing. A simple cottage by a stream where she tends a garden with her own hands, a forest path where she walks alone, but never lonely. Accompanied by deer that step from shadow to share her journey, a mountaintop where she dances with the wind while stars wheel overhead in patterns that tell stories older than kingdoms. The weaving spirits dance around these memories, their movements growing more complex, more beautiful as they weave together the threads of Queen Liralei's deepest dreams. You watch, breathing so slowly now as they create patterns in the air that tell the story of a heart divided between love and longing, between what is and what might be. Years pass in the mirror's depths, seasons of rule and responsibility punctuated by stolen moments before the glass where she watches other versions of herself live lives of simple freedom. The weaving spirits show you how the longing grew, how it changed from gentle wish to desperate need, how the mirror's call became impossible to resist. "I give my people everything," she whispers in one vision, standing alone in her chambers while celebration sounds from the courtyard below. "My time, my heart, my very soul, but what do I keep for myself? What small corner of dreams am I allowed to claim?" The spirit's dance grows more urgent then, their forms flickering like candle flames in an unfelt breeze. They show you the final night, the night she made her choice, the night she stepped through the mirror's surface and into the realm where all her dreams waited to embrace her. But they show you something else too, something the diary couldn't capture in mere words. They show you the moment of transition, the instant when she passed from one world to another, and the look in her eyes as she realized what she had gained and what she had lost in that single irrevocable step. Freedom. Beautiful, complete, perfect. Freedom, but also separation from everything and everyone she had ever known. The price the mirror demanded was not just her old life, but her connection to all other lives, all other hearts that might have shared her joy. The scholar's hand moves closer to the glass, drawn by these visions that paint themselves across his heart like the most beautiful of sorrows. "She found what she was looking for," he murmurs, his voice thick with emotion. "But it wasn't what she expected, was it?" The weaving spirits pause in their eternal dance, and for a moment, they all turn toward where you watch from beyond the mirror's surface. Their watercolor faces are touched with such gentle sadness, such perfect understanding of the choice that faces every heart that has ever longed for something beyond reach. One spirit drifts closer than the others, and in its features you see Queen Liralie as she might have been, could have been in a world where duty and dreams found harmony instead of war. This echo reaches toward the glass, its transparent fingers pressing against the surface from within as the scholar's living hand hovers just beyond. "Come," it whispers, and its voice is honey and starlight, and the distant sound of streams flowing over silver stones. "Come and dance with us where sorrow has no meaning, where every dream you've ever harbored waits to welcome you home, where the weight of what you call reality can finally be set down like a burden you never needed to carry." The mirror's surface ripples at the spirit's touch, and suddenly the barrier between worlds seems thin as butterfly wings. The scholar could reach through, could let his fingers break that delicate membrane, could step into a realm where every longing is fulfilled and every question finds its perfect answer. Behind him, Queen Liralei's chamber grows dimmer still, the golden light fading as if the very magic that sustains it recognizes that something momentous is about to unfold. The music box continues its lullaby, but even that sound seems to come from very far away, from a world that grows more distant with each breath. Chapter 4. Visions in Glass ***. You breathe slowly, deeply as the scholar's fingertips hover just above the mirror's warm surface. The starfall glass pulses gently beneath his trembling hand, and in its depths, Queen Liralee's realm of Silver Islands seems to shimmer closer, as if the very distance between worlds grows thin as gossamer thread. The golden light of her chamber grows softer, now more distant, as if you're sinking slowly beneath the surface of a warm, luminous pool. Your eyelids feel heavy, so heavy, but you cannot look away from the mirror's depths, where wonders beyond imagination dance and flow like liquid starlight. And then something extraordinary happens. The mirror's surface begins to ripple outward, from where the scholar's breath touches the glass, and the visions within start to change, to deepen, to draw you both into layers of memory and dream that exist beyond the physical realm you've been watching. You see the floating gardens more clearly now, as if you've stepped somehow into the mirror itself without moving at all. The Silver Islands drift closer, close enough to smell the impossible flowers that bloom there, close enough to hear the crystal streams that sing their ancient lullabies as they flow upward into star-touched skies. But these gardens are not empty anymore. They are alive with movement, with figures made of light and memory, with echoes that dance through this glass world like thoughts given form. The weaving spirits, they emerge from behind crystalline trees and from within flowers large enough to hold a dreaming child. These beings are not quite solid, not quite transparent, but something beautifully between. They move like silk scarves caught in gentle breezes, their forms shifting and flowing as they dance through Queen Liralee's eternal realm. What are they? The scholar whispers, his voice soft as falling snow. You watch, breathing slowly, as one of the spirits drifts closer to the mirror's surface. Its features are delicate as watercolor painting, sometimes clear, sometimes blurred, as if memory itself is trying to take shape before your eyes. And in its movements, in the way it tilts its ethereal head and extends graceful arms, you recognize something achingly familiar. It moves like Queen Liralee. More spirits emerge now, dozens of them, each one a different aspect of the Queen's memories. Her dreams, her deepest longings given form in this realm where thought becomes reality. They dance around her living form, these echoes of herself, and as they move, the very air begins to shimmer with visions. The scholar leans closer to the glass, drawn by invisible threads of wonder, and as his breath fogs the surface, the visions grow clearer, more real, more hypnotically beautiful than anything you've ever witnessed. You see Queen Liralee as she was in life, but not as the portraits painted her. These are private moments, secret dreams, memories that were hers alone until the mirror captured them and made them eternal. Here she is as a child, running barefoot through meadows where wildflowers grow taller than her head. Her laugh echoes across years and realms as she chases butterflies made of pure sunlight, her small hands reaching for wings that scatter into golden dust only to reform again just beyond her grasp. The weaving spirits dance around this memory, their movements tender and protective, preserving every detail of joy in crystalline perfection. The vision shifts, flows like watercolors bleeding into new shapes. Now you see her as a young woman, before the crown claimed her completely. She sits by a window in some distant tower, her dark hair loose around her shoulders as she gazes out at landscapes that exist only in dreams. Her hands move across parchment, sketching, always sketching. Maps of places that have no names, paths that lead to horizons touched with impossible colors. I want to walk those roads, she whispers to her reflection in the window glass. And the weaving spirits repeat her words like a gentle echo, their voices blending into harmonies that make your heart flutter with sympathetic longing. I want to sleep under skies I've never seen, wake to sunrises that paint the world in colors that have no names. The scholar's breathing grows deeper, more rhythmic as he becomes lost in these visions that dance before you both like the most beautiful of dreams. You feel yourself sinking deeper, too deeper, into the mirror's hypnotic embrace, deeper into layers of memory and possibility that exist beyond ordinary time. Another vision blooms in the starfall glass. Queen Lirelei stands before her court, magnificent, in robes of midnight blue sewn with silver stars. She speaks words of wisdom, renders judgments with compassion, guides her people with the gentle strength that made her beloved throughout the realm. But the weaving spirits show you what the courtiers could not see, the way her eyes drift toward the windows, the way her fingers trace patterns in the air when she thinks no one is watching. Patterns that match the maps she drew in her private chambers, the paths she longed to walk. Duty, one of the spirits whispers, its voice like wind through silver leaves. Honor, responsibility, love. The words float through the mirror's depths, and you understand that these were not her chains, but her gifts freely given, joyfully offered, but still, in their way, a kind of beautiful prison. The visions shift again, and now you see her discovering the mirror for the first time. How young she looks, how full of wonder as she traces its impossible frame with reverent fingers. The glass shows her glimpses then, just as it does now, fleeting images of other worlds, other possibilities, other lives she might have lived. "Show me," she breathes to her reflection, and the mirror responds, revealing visions that make her eyes bright with tears of longing. A simple cottage by a stream where she tends a garden with her own hands, a forest path where she walks alone, but never lonely. Accompanied by deer that step from shadow to share her journey, a mountaintop where she dances with the wind while stars wheel overhead in patterns that tell stories older than kingdoms. The weaving spirits dance around these memories, their movements growing more complex, more beautiful, as they weave together the threads of Queen Lirelei's deepest dreams. You watch, breathing so slowly now, as they create patterns in the air that tell the story of a heart divided between love and longing, between what is and what might be. Years pass in the mirror's depths, seasons of rule and responsibility punctuated by stolen moments before the glass, where she watches other versions of herself live lives of simple freedom. The weaving spirits show you how the longing grew, how it changed from gentle wish to desperate need, how the mirror's call became impossible to resist. "I give my people everything," she whispers in one vision, standing alone in her chambers while celebration sounds from the courtyard below. "My time, my heart, my very soul, but what do I keep for myself? What small corner of dreams am I allowed to claim?" The spirit's dance grows more urgent then, their forms flickering like candle flames in an unfelt breeze. They show you the final night, the night she made her choice, the night she stepped through the mirror's surface and into the realm where all her dreams waited to embrace her. But they show you something else too, something the diary couldn't capture in mere words. They show you the moment of transition, the instant when she passed from one world to another, and the look in her eyes as she realized what she had gained and what she had lost in that single irrevocable step. Freedom. Beautiful, complete, perfect. Freedom, but also separation from everything and everyone she had ever known. The price the mirror demanded was not just her old life, but her connection to all other lives, all other hearts that might have shared her joy. The scholar's hand moves closer to the glass, drawn by these visions that paint themselves across his heart like the most beautiful of sorrows. "She found what she was looking for," he murmurs, his voice thick with emotion. "But it wasn't what she expected, was it?" The weaving spirits pause in their eternal dance, and for a moment, they all turn toward where you watch from beyond the mirror's surface. Their watercolor faces are touched with such gentle sadness, such perfect understanding of the choice that faces every heart that has ever longed for something beyond reach. One spirit drifts closer than the others, and in its features, you see Queen Lirelei as she might have been, could have been in a world where duty and dreams found harmony instead of war. This echo reaches toward the glass, its transparent fingers pressing against the surface from within as the scholar's living hand hovers just beyond. "Come," it whispers, and its voice is honey and starlight and the distant sound of streams flowing over silver stones. "Come and dance with us where sorrow has no meaning, where every dream you've ever harbored waits to welcome you home." where the weight of what you call reality can finally be set down like a burden you never needed to carry. The mirror's surface ripples at the spirit's touch, and suddenly the barrier between worlds seems thin as butterfly wings. The scholar could reach through, could let his fingers break that delicate membrane, could step into a realm where every longing is fulfilled and every question finds its perfect answer. Behind him, Queen Liralei's chamber grows dimmer still, the golden light fading as if the very magic that sustains it recognizes that something momentous is about to unfold. The music box continues its lullaby, but even that sound seems to come from very far away from a world that grows more distant with each breath. Chapter 6. The Choice Asterisk. You breathe slowly, deeply as Queen Liralei's voice fades into the gentle silence that follows all perfect truths. The crown of whispers grows lighter upon the scholar's brow, its crystallized sound settling into the rhythm of a heart at peace, and around you both, the heart of echoes begins to shift, to change, to guide you towards something that feels both like an ending and a beginning. The floating islands drift apart with the grace of clouds separating after a summer storm, their silver surfaces catching the eternal aurora's light and reflecting it back in patterns that speak of choices yet to be made. The weaving spirits bow deeply before fading like morning mist, their watercolor forms dissolving into the realm's luminous air, as if their purpose here has been fulfilled. You feel yourself moving, floating, drifting with the scholar through spaces that exist between thought and dream, between possibility and certainty. The crystalline ground beneath your feet becomes softer, more yielding, until you're walking on what feels like compressed starlight that yields to each step with gentle, musical chimes. And there, ahead of you both, the realm's very architecture begins to reveal its deepest secret. The threshold dot, it rises from the pearl-touched ground like a doorway carved from the marriage of light and shadow, reality and dream. But this is no ordinary passage between spaces. This is the boundary between worlds themselves, the place where choices are made that echo through eternity. Like stones dropped into still water, the threshold's frame is wrought from silver that seems to flow like liquid while remaining perfectly solid. Its surface carved with symbols that shift and change as you watch, sometimes resembling ancient script, sometimes looking like musical notation, sometimes appearing as maps of territories that exist only in the deepest chambers of the heart. It is what fills the doorway that takes your breath away and makes your soul pause and wonder. The gateway of silver tears. Instead of empty space or solid barrier, the threshold holds something that defies easy description, a membrane of crystallized emotion that shimmers like captured moonbeams. It is neither liquid nor solid, but something beautifully between, its surface rippling with patterns that suggest depth beyond measuring. These are not tears of sorrow, you understand as you draw closer, but tears of every emotion that has ever touched a heart with truth, tears of joy and loss and love and longing, tears of recognition and gratitude, and the bittersweet beauty that comes when one perfect moment must give way to the next. The scholar stops before this wonder, the crown of whispers pulsing gently as it translates the deeper meanings written in the gateway's ever-shifting surface. "It's beautiful," he whispers, his voice carrying the weight of someone standing at the edge of the most important decision of his existence. Queen Liralee appears beside the threshold, her spirit form more radiant than ever, but somehow also more distant, as if she exists now in the space between choices rather than in any single realm. Her smile holds all the wisdom of someone who has walked this path before, who knows both the weight and the freedom that come with choosing one's deepest truth. "The gateway of silver tears," she says, her voice like wind chimes made of crystallized starlight. "It is the only passage between my realm and yours, the only way to cross from one form of existence to another. But like all true magic, like all meaningful choices, it demands a sacrifice." She moves closer to the rippling membrane, her hand hovering just above its surface as patterns of light dance beneath her ethereal fingertips. To pass through to enter my realm permanently, you must give up something precious. Not your life, never that, but your connection to linear time, your ability to grow and change and discover new facets of yourself through struggle and triumph, and the beautiful imperfection of ordinary existence. The scholar listens with the intensity of someone receiving a revelation, his hand moving unconsciously toward the gateway's shimmering surface. And to return? He asks. To go back to my world, what does that require? Queen Lirale's expression grows infinitely tender, touched with the kind of love that asks nothing and offers everything. To return, she says softly, you must sacrifice the perfect peace you found here, the certainty that every dream can be fulfilled, the comfort of knowing that struggle and sorrow need never touch you again. You must choose growth over security. Questions over answers, the messy, complicated, gloriously uncertain adventure of a life lived in time. She turns to face you both fully, and in her ancient eyes, you see reflections of every soul who has ever stood at this threshold, every heart that has faced the choice between peaceful perfection and the wild, dangerous, magnificent uncertainty of continued existence. But know this, she continues, her voice growing softer, more hypnotic, like a lullaby that carries truth in its melody. Neither choice is wrong, neither path is lesser. The realm I've chosen offers peace beyond imagining, beauty that never fades, joy that knows no shadow. Your world offers something different, but equally precious, the chance to become more than you are, to discover strengths you never knew you possessed, to touch other hearts and be touched in return. The gateway pulses with gentle light, and within its crystalline depths, you begin to see visions, glimpses of what each choice might bring. On one side, the scholar joins Queen Lirale in her eternal dance among silver islands, his face peaceful and serene and free from every burden that has ever weighed upon his heart. He moves with the fluid grace of someone who has found perfect rest, and his eyes hold the deep contentment that comes when every question finds its answer. On the other side, you see him returning to his world, to dusty libraries and unanswered questions and the thousand small struggles that make up a mortal life. But his eyes there hold something different, a light that wasn't there before, the wisdom that comes from having touched the infinite and chosen to return to the finite, the strength that comes from understanding that some mysteries are more beautiful when left unsolved. Time, Queen Lirale whispers, and the word carries the weight of cosmic truth. That is what separates our realms, what makes each choice precious. In my world, time has no meaning because perfection has been achieved. In yours, time is the canvas upon which every beautiful moment is painted, the river that carries you from who you were to who you might become. The scholar moves closer to the gateway, close enough that its silver light washes over his face like moonbeams made tangible. The crown of whispers grows brighter on his brow, and through its crystallized fragments, you hear something extraordinary, the sound of his own heart beating the rhythm of his own breathing, the gentle, persistent whisper of life itself calling him back to the world of growth and change and beautiful uncertainty. I understand now, he says, his voice thick with emotion and dawning clarity. The choice isn't between happiness and sorrow, between right and wrong. It's between two different kinds of existence, two different ways of being fully alive. Queen Lirale nods, her smile radiant as sunrise over silver seas. Exactly. And whatever you choose, however you decide to honor the truth that lives deepest in your heart, know that you choose with my blessing, with my understanding, with my love. For the courage it takes to stand at this threshold and choose at all. The gateway's surface ripples more intensely now, responding to the approaching moment of decision. The silver tears that comprise its substance begin to sing a harmony that speaks of every choice ever made with love, every path chosen with integrity, every soul that has dared to follow its deepest truth into territories unmapped by ordinary wisdom. That behind the scholar, you sense rather than see the presence of the physical world. Queen Lirale's chamber with its golden light and gentle enchantments, the palace with its corridors of memory and wonder, the world beyond its walls where people struggle and dream, and love and lose and find themselves again in the eternal dance of mortal existence. Ahead lies the realm of silver islands and eternal Aurora, the place where every dream finds its fulfillment and every question dissolves into perfect peace. The weaving spirits wait there patient as eternity, ready to welcome a new soul into their dance of crystallized contentment. The scholar stands between these worlds, one hand reaching toward the gateway's warm surface, feeling the pull of eternal peace, while his other hand instinctively moves back toward the cool stone of reality, feeling the tug of life lived in time. The choice stretches before him like an ocean of possibility, and in this moment, he is perfectly balanced between what is and what might be. "Whatever I choose," he says softly, his words carrying the weight of someone who has looked into the heart of existence and found it beautiful in all its forms. "Whatever path I take from this threshold, I will carry the memory of this place with me. The knowledge that peace is possible, that dreams can be made real, that love transcends the boundaries between worlds." Chapter 7. The Return Asterisk. The scholar's eyes open slowly, like flower petals unfurling to greet the dawn. For a moment, he lay still in the queen's chamber, watching dust motes dance in the golden streams of light that filtered through the ancient windows. The air itself seemed to shimmer with the lingering magic of the night, and he could still feel the echo of the queen's presence, like a warm embrace around his shoulders. How long had he been here? Time moved differently in this realm, flowing like honey through the spaces between heartbeats. But now, as the sun climbed higher beyond the crystalline walls, he felt the gentle pull of his own world calling him home, soft but insistent. Like a distant bell carried on the morning breeze, the queen's mirror stood before him, its surface now showing not the depths of the Starfall realm, but his own reflection, though somehow transformed. His eyes held a new depth like still ponds that have learned to reflect not just the sky, but the infinite space between stars. The wisdom he had gathered during his time here seemed to glow softly beneath his skin, a gentle radiance that spoke of stories heard and truths understood. He rose from the silken cushions where he had rested, his movements careful and reverent in the sacred space. The chamber felt different now in the daylight, still beautiful, still filled with wonder, but somehow more translucent, as if it existed in the space between dreaming and waking. The tapestries that had seemed so vivid in the starlight now appeared like watercolors beginning to fade, their edges soft and dreamlike. As he moved toward the mirror, preparing to take his leave, something caught his eye. There, on the small table beside the queen's throne, lay a single shard of starfall glass no larger than his thumb. It pulsed with the same gentle rhythm as a sleeping heart, and within its crystalline depths, he could see tiny galaxies swirling. In eternal, peaceful dance. The scholar approached the fragment with wonder. It was warm to the touch, as if it held within it all the comfort of the queen's bedtime stories, all the peace of her eternal slumber. Without words, he understood this was meant for him, a gift from the dreaming queen, a piece of her peaceful realm to carry back into the waking world. He lifted the shard carefully, marveling at how something so small could contain such profound tranquility. As his fingers closed around it, he felt a familiar presence brush against his mind like silk curtains stirred by a gentle breeze. The queen's voice, soft as whispered lullabies, spoke to him one final time. "Peace is not a place, dear scholar," she murmured from the depths of her eternal dream. "It is a way of seeing. Carry this truth with you, and know that wherever you go, you take with you the stillness of stars, the patience of ancient stones, and the quiet wisdom of stories told in the safety of sleep." The scholar nodded, understanding flooding through him like warm milk and honey. He tucked the starfall glass into his traveling pouch, feeling its gentle warmth settle against his heart like a constant reminder that magic existed in the smallest moments of peace. He turned to face the mirror one last time, Its surface rippled like water, showing him glimpses of his own world, his study, with its scattered books and half-finished research. The village beyond his window beginning to stir with the activities of a new day. The simple beauty of ordinary life waiting for his return. The transition was gentle, like sinking slowly into the most comfortable bed after a long journey. The crystalline chamber began to fade around him, not disappearing but becoming translucent, as if he were seeing it through morning mist. The queen's throne grew distant, and yet he could still feel her presence, would always feel it now. Like a blessing carried in his bones. Step by step, he moved toward his own reflection in the mirror. The glass felt warm against his palm as he pressed his hand to its surface. For a moment, he existed in both worlds simultaneously, the magical realm of the sleeping queen behind him, his familiar study beginning to solidify before him. Then, like waking from the most beautiful dream, he found himself standing in his own chamber as the first rays of true dawn touched the windows of his cottage. The books on his desk were exactly as he had left them, his traveling cloak still draped over the chair. And yet everything felt different, touched by the magic he had experienced. The scholar moved to his window and looked out at the village. Below, the same cobblestone streets, the same thatched roofs, the same ancient oak tree in the square, but now he saw them with new eyes. He could see the stories hidden in the weathered stones, the dreams tucked safely beneath the roof tiles, the patient wisdom of the old tree that had watched over generations of sleepers. His hand went to his traveling pouch, feeling the warm pulse of the starfall glass within. The shard seemed to whisper to him of all the peaceful places that existed in the world, not just in magical realms, but in the quiet moments between thoughts, in the pause between one breath and the next, in the gentle space where day surrenders. Tonight, he understood now why the queen had chosen eternal sleep, not as an escape from the world, but as a way of holding space for all the peace that existed within it. Every time someone found comfort in a story, every time a child fell asleep feeling safe and loved, every time a weary heart found rest, they were touching the same eternal wellspring that flowed through the queen's dreams. The scholar smiled, feeling a profound gratitude wash over him like warm sunlight. He had come seeking answers to ancient mysteries, but he had found something far more precious, the knowledge that peace was not something to be discovered in distant lands, but something to be recognized in the sacred ordinary moments of every day. Life. As the village below began to wake, he could see the baker lighting his ovens, the blacksmith preparing his forge, children running through the streets with the boundless energy of morning. Each person carried within them their own capacity for peace, their own connection to the dreaming realm where all stories were one story, and all sleep was blessed sleep. He opened his window and breathed in the morning air, tasting the familiar sense of home mixed with something new, the lingering sweetness of starfall honey, the whisper of crystalline chambers, the echo of lullabies sung by a queen who had chosen to guard the dreams of the world. The shard of starfall glass pulsed gently against his heart, and he knew that his real journey was just beginning. Not a journey to distant magical realms, but a journey inward, to the place where peace lived quietly in every moment, waiting to be recognized and cherished. He moved to his desk and took up his quill, dipping it in ink that seemed to shimmer with starlight. There was a story to be written, not just a tale of his adventure, but a guide for others who sought the same peace he had found. Words flowed onto the parchment like music, each sentence a pathway back to the tranquil realm that existed not in some far-off land, but in the gentle spaces between thoughts, in the quiet chambers of the heart. As he wrote, the village continued to wake around him, but he was no longer separate from its peaceful rhythms. He was part of the great story that the sleeping queen guarded in her dreams, the story of a world where magic and ordinary life danced together in perfect harmony, where every moment held the possibility of wonder and where peace was always just a breath away. The scholar wrote until the sun was high overhead, his hand guided by the warm pulse of the starfall glass and the memory of the queen's eternal smile. And when he finally set down his quill, he knew that he had learned the greatest secret of all, that the most powerful magic was not in distant realms or ancient artifacts, but in the simple act of recognizing the peace that had always been. There, waiting patiently in the quiet places of the world, as the first rays of dawn touched the palace ruins, the scholar tucked the small shard of starfall glass into his traveling pouch, feeling its gentle warmth against his heart like a constant reminder that even in the waking world, peace can be found by those who know where to look. Chapter 8. The Scholar's Tale *. The Moonlight Inn stood like a gentle beacon beside the silver lake, its windows glowing with warm amber light that reflected on the water's surface like scattered coins. It was the kind of place where weary travelers found more than just shelter. They found the comfort of shared stories and the peace that comes from knowing you are among friends, even if you've only just met them. The scholar had been traveling for 3 weeks since his return from the Queen's realm, carrying with him not only his journals and research, but the precious shard of starfall glass that pulsed softly against his heart with each step. Word of his discoveries had begun to spread through the scholarly circles, but tonight he found himself in simpler company: merchants heading to market, pilgrims on their way to distant shrines, and families seeking new homes and lands beyond. The mountains. The common room of the inn was exactly as such places should be. Low wooden beams overhead, comfortable chairs arranged around a stone fireplace, and the kind of warmth that seemed to seep into your bones and remind you that the world was, at its heart, a place of kindness. The innkeeper, a woman with silver-threaded hair and laugh lines around her eyes, moved between the tables with the grace of someone who had spent years making strangers feel welcome. As the evening deepened and the moon rose full and bright over the lake, the conversations began to quiet naturally. Children who had been playing near the hearth settled into their parents' laps, and even the adults seemed to feel the gentle pull of approaching sleep. It was then that young Thomas, a baker's apprentice traveling to learn new techniques in the capital, approached the scholar with the shy boldness of youth. "Excuse me, sir," Thomas said, his voice respectful but curious. "I heard someone say you're a scholar of old stories. Might you have a tale to share? My grandmother always said the best stories come after long journeys, and yours looks to have been very long indeed." The scholar looked up from his wine, feeling the familiar warmth of the starfall glass respond to the request. Around the common room, other faces had turned toward him with the hopeful expression of people who sensed a story coming. There was something in the air tonight. Perhaps it was the moonlight streaming through the windows, or the way the fire crackled with unusual music, but the scholar felt the gentle guidance of the Queen's gift. "I do have a story," he said softly, his voice carrying just far enough to reach every ear in the room. "But it's not the kind of tale that's meant to excite or frighten. It's a story for the time when day is ending and the heart is ready for rest." An elderly merchant named Henrik leaned forward in his chair. "Those are the best kind of stories, in my experience, the ones that settle the soul." The scholar smiled and moved closer to the fire, and without any formal announcement, the other guests began to arrange themselves in a rough circle. Children curled up on thick rugs, parents settled into comfortable chairs, and even the innkeeper paused in her work to listen. The firelight cast everything in a warm, golden glow that seemed to make the very air shimmer with possibility. "This is the story of a queen who loved her people so much that she chose to dream for them," the scholar began, his voice taking on the rhythm of ancient tales told by countless firesides, and of a mirror that showed not what was, but what could be, if only we knew how to look. As he spoke, something remarkable began to happen. The shard of starfall glass in his pouch grew warmer, and its gentle pulse seemed to synchronize with his words. The listeners felt it too, a settling in their bones, a quieting of the restless thoughts that usually chased them into sleep. Even the fire seemed to burn with a softer, more peaceful light. The scholar told them of the ancient palace hidden behind waterfalls, of mirrors that reflected dreams instead of faces, and of a queen who had discovered that the greatest magic was not in ruling others, but in holding space for their peace. He described the crystalline chambers where time moved like honey, and the way starlight could be woven into glass that held the essence of tranquility itself. As the tale unfolded, Maria, a seamstress traveling with her young daughter, noticed that little Elena had stopped fidgeting and was lying peacefully against her mother's shoulder, her breathing deep, and even though her eyes remained open, watching the scholar with the rapt attention that children give to truly magical things. Other children throughout the room had settled into similar states of calm attention, and even the adults found their usual worries fading into the background. The queen understood something that took me a lifetime of study to learn, the scholar continued, his voice growing softer as the fire burned lower. Peace is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of something deeper, a knowing that beneath all the noise and hurry of the world, there is a place of perfect stillness where all souls can rest. Henrik nodded slowly, his weathered hands folded in his lap. I've been searching for such a place my whole life, he murmured. Never thought to look for it in a story. But that's exactly where it lives, the scholar replied, pulling the shard of starfall glass from his pouch. In the firelight, it seemed to glow with its own inner radiance, and everyone in the room felt a collective intake of breath, as if they were witnessing something sacred. The queen gave me this fragment of her realm, and I've discovered that it carries with it a wonderful gift, not just peace for the one who holds it, but peace for all those who hear its story. He held the shard up to the light, and it cast tiny rainbows on the walls and ceiling, like captured aurora dancing in the warm air. The effect was hypnotic and soothing, and several of the listeners felt their eyelids growing heavy with the most comfortable drowsiness they had ever experienced. What happened to the queen? Asked Anna, a young mother holding her infant son. Is she still there in her palace of dreams? She is, the scholar said with certainty. And she always will be, because the palace exists wherever people gather, to share stories that bring peace, wherever children fall asleep feeling safe and loved, wherever weary hearts find the rest they need. The queen's gift was understanding that magic isn't about power over others, it's about holding space for the peace that already exists in every moment, waiting to be recognized. As he spoke these words, the infant in Anna's arms, who had been fussing softly throughout the evening, settled into perfect quiet, his tiny fist uncurling as he drifted into the most serene sleep. Anna looked down at her son with wonder, then up at the scholar with tears of gratitude in her eyes. The scholar continued his tale, describing his journey through the mirror passages, his conversations with the dreaming queen, and the profound understanding that had come to him in that place between sleeping and waking. With each detail, the starfall glass seemed to pulse with greater warmth, and that warmth spread through the room like the gentlest of blessings. Old Henrik found himself remembering his childhood, when his mother would sing him lullabies that seemed to make the whole world safe. Maria felt the tension she'd been carrying for months, worry about her business, concern for her daughter's future. The thousand small anxieties of daily life simply dissolved like sugar in warm milk. Even the innkeeper, who had planned to stay awake to tend her guests, found herself settling into a chair by the kitchen door, her hands folded peacefully in her lap. The most remarkable thing, the scholar said, his voice now barely above a whisper, was realizing that I hadn't traveled to some distant magical realm at all. I had simply learned to see the magic that was always there, in every moment of genuine peace, in every story shared with love, in every heart that opens to receive the gift of true rest. The fire had burned down to glowing embers, and the moonlight, streaming through the windows, had grown softer, as if even the moon understood that this was a time for gentle things. Around the room, eyes were growing heavy, but it was the sweetest kind of tiredness, not the exhaustion that comes from struggle, but the blessed weariness that comes at the end of a day well lived, when the soul is ready to surrender to the healing embrace of sleep. Thomas, the baker's apprentice, raised his hand slightly, as if he were still in his childhood classroom. "Sir," he said sleepily, might we hear about the Queen's lullabies, the ones she sang to help people dream?" The scholar smiled, understanding that this was the heart of what his listeners needed. The Queen's lullabies were not like ordinary songs, he said, his voice taking on the rhythm of a gentle tide. They were woven from the sound of starlight touching still water, from the whisper of silver leaves in eternal moonlight, from the soft breathing of the earth itself, as it settled into peaceful night. As he spoke, something extraordinary happened. Though the scholar had no particular gift for music, the words that came from his lips seemed to carry with them the echo of those celestial melodies. The starfall glass pulsed in harmony with his voice, and everyone in the room felt as if they were being cradled in invisible arms, rocked gently by hands made of moonbeams and starshine.